Parsha Toldot, we are introduced to Yitzchak. Yitzchak was the son of Avraham. Avraham gave birth to Yitzchak. If we go to the inner nature of both Avraham and Yitzchak, we are told that Avraham served God out of love and Yitzchak served God out of fear. Love comes from chesed, fear comes from gvura. Now, with all the emphasis on Avraham being Yitzchak's father and Yitzchak being Avraham's son, how is it that they are opposites? Kindness, chesed, and gvura are opposites. Kindness is the right arm, and gvura is the left arm, opposite sides of the body. Love comes from chesed, fear comes from gvura. So if Avraham served God with love and Yitzchak served God with fear, they're opposites. So what is this constant reminder that Yitzchak and Avraham were similar? The Gemara actually says that Yitzchak looked very much like Avraham. So there was no mistake in the fact that he was his son. What does this mean on the spiritual level? So let's understand what is love and what is fear. Love comes from kindness. When we feel God's kindness, you are drawn towards Him with love. In fact, when kindness is focused on an individual, it becomes love. Because by the nature of kindness, a kind person is kind to everybody. There's no discriminating. There's nothing personal. I'm generous, I'm kind, I give everybody. So don't take it personally if I'm nice to you. I'm nice to everybody. So you can't call it love, you can call it kindness, generosity. So I'm acting lovingly to you, not because I love you, but because I am generous. But when that generosity focuses on an individual, for some personal individual reason, you are different from everybody else, and my kindness to you is meant for you alone, or for you specifically, then it becomes love. How does love make you feel? It makes you feel rich. It makes you feel complete, full, significant. The opposite is with fear. Fear is anything that makes you feel insignificant, anything that makes you feel smaller, anything that makes you less important in your own experience, where you feel your own smallness, weakness, inadequacy, or simply non-existence. Where does that come from? That comes from distance. When we contemplate how distant God is, how totally different He is, that produces a feeling of fear or awe. When we think about how close God is, like Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. How do you feel towards a father? Closeness. How do you feel towards a king? Insignificance. So that's love and fear. That makes them opposites, right? Love makes you feel more significant. Fear makes you feel insignificant. But that's only on the surface. If we go a little bit deeper, what is distance? How are we distant from God? Well, He's infinite, we're finite. He is without end, without restriction, without any dependency, and we're dependent and we're restricted. Very, very distant, very far. Not to mention, God is real, God is true, God is honest, and we are not so real, we're not so true, we're not so honest. We feel the distance. But what is the function of distance? Keeping people apart, keeping things apart, is not a goal. That's not an objective. The objective of all of creation is togetherness, oneness, not separateness. So why would God create this attribute of fear, or the attribute of gvura, that keeps us apart, keeps us constantly aware of how separate and different we are? What is the point of that? To make me humble? What is the virtue of humility if it's keeping us apart? So here's the deeper, essential value of gvura, or fear. Gvura means I'm going to give you more than you can handle. Because I'm going to give myself to you, and myself is more than you can handle. But I want to give you everything. So I overwhelm you with kindness. Overwhelming kindness is also called severity. So here's the difference. If I'm giving you what you can handle, well, then obviously it's going to make you feel more significant, because I'm tailoring to you. I'm catering to you. I'm taking into consideration your capacity, what you like, what you can handle, how much you can handle. Well, that makes you feel significant because I'm paying attention to your limits and to your capacities. But if I want to give you everything, at first, it will overwhelm you. It will make you feel insignificant. It will make you very conscious of how limited you are, because I'm trying to fit infinity into your finite existence. But once I get over that, then I realize you are giving me more than I deserve, more than I can handle, more than nature allows, so to speak. Nature allows a finite being to receive a finite gift, finite blessing, finite amount of life, because I'm a finite being. Is it possible for me to receive an infinite amount of life without blowing my fuse? No, it has to blow your fuse. But what happens after the fuse is blown? At first, you are limited to how much your fuse can handle. That's true. And if I give you more than your fuse can handle, it will blow the fuse. And then you don't have to worry about the fuse anymore. Now you can receive infinitely because you're not governed by a fuse. So the humility that the gevura brings when God wants to give you more than you can handle, temporarily, as a first step, it blows your fuse. You feel completely insignificant, you feel completely overwhelmed, you feel completely humbled or bottled. So the limitations that make you you are blown. You can't remain finite. So at first, it's a shock, which causes humility. But once that finiteness has been broken, now you can handle infinity. So really, we're talking about a progression from Avraham to Yitzchak, not an opposition. It's not like Avraham was all kindness and Yitzchak was all limitation, severity. On the contrary, Avraham was about kindness and Yitzchak was about more kindness. Intense, severe kindness. Severity. A kindness that you should not be able to handle. But once you achieve this humility, once you're not self-conscious anymore, then your self is no longer restricted and limited as it was before, and now you can handle infinite godliness, infinite life, infinite significance. So we come to a very interesting conclusion. Every punishment in Torah is really breaking the fuse that keeps you finite so that you can receive an infinite flow of energy and life. Infinite means without restrictions of nature. Like when a person is successful beyond all expectations, it's not literally infinite, but it's infinite relative to what should have been, to the natural condition. So all the suffering that we go through is not to deny us life, but to open us up to greater life. So you see, when a person is governed by his ego, there are people who are very deserving of wealth. They work hard, they're talented, and yet they never achieve wealth. And one of the reasons is they can't handle it. They can't handle the thought of being rich. They see themselves as poor. Their self-image limits them, and they can't get beyond it. What's the solution? Get rid of the self-image. Blow the fuse. Humble yourself, meaning get beyond the restrictions of your ego, of your self-image, and then you can do anything. So Yitzchak tells us that after you have the kindness and the love of Avraham, it's not the end. It feels like, what more? If you love God with all your heart, what more is there? It's over, it's done. You've peaked. Yitzchak says, no. You've only filled your capacity. You haven't gone beyond your capacity. You filled your tank, but your tank is small. So yes, you feel significant, you feel full, you feel content, you feel satisfied, but it's so limited. Yitzchak takes us up to a higher level. At first, it's intimidating and very humbling and doesn't seem possible. But once we break that me limit, that finite sense of self, then we can fly beyond all those restrictions. And a weak person can become a strong person. And an ignorant person can become a genius if we just get past our self-imposed ego restrictions. So when God pushes us beyond our limits, we should see it as an act of kindness, and the result will be more love, not just more fear. So the fear is a gateway to greater love. I'll use a very simple example. There are two very generous wealthy people. And their custom is that on Sunday, when they're not working, they sit at a desk and the doors are open to anyone who wants to come in and ask for a donation. Everyone walks away with a gift. Everyone. But there's a difference. One person has a certain amount of money that he gives everybody. Anyone who knocks on his door on Sunday gets $100, $1,000. But everyone gets $1,000. And it doesn't matter whether you're in debt, hundreds of thousands, or you need $1,000 to buy some furniture for your house. No matter what the need is, $1,000 is what you get, because that's my generosity, that's my form of tzedakah. The other person, who also sits all day and gives out money, but he wants to know, what is your need? And no two people get the same amount. If you have a greater need, he gives you more. You have a smaller need, he gives you less. The first guy seems, at least at first glance, to be more generous. He doesn't ask any questions. Here's money, here's a gift. Have a great day. No gvura, no judgment, no limits. No limits to who gets. The second guy is kind of getting personal. He wants to know what the issue is, wants to know what your problem is. So it's interesting that the guy who is less indiscriminate, who wants to give you according to your need, that's gvura. But doesn't that bring people closer? If I want to know what you need the money for, am I not being more personal? Am I not being more generous? Because I'm getting involved with you. I want to hear your story. I want to be moved by your story and by your need. So it turns out that there are ways in which gvura leads to greater closeness. When I want to know how much money you deserve to get, I'm being a little harsh, I'm being a little strict. If you don't deserve, you're not going to get $1,000. But if you do deserve, you'll get 10,000. But it's much more personal. So gvura can be a closeness, not just a distance. But in order to get to that higher closeness, you have to experience a temporary distance, which means you have to humble your restrictions. You have to shed your self-image that keeps you locked into a finite thinking, so that you can think bigger, receive bigger, appreciate bigger. You can open yourself up to the giver and not be restricted by your own capacity of receiving. That's real gvura. And that's what we celebrate in Yitzchak, not harshness, not judgment. And where do we see this? In his very name. His name is Yitzchak, which means laughter. If he is the epitome of judgment, of gvura, where's the laughter coming from? And even if there is laughter, why would it be his name? So when we say Yitzchak, his name is laughter, means he is all about joy. That's the joy that comes after humility, which brings greater closeness, in a sense, greater love. That is the more productive and the more internal form of fear. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal, it's questions and answers, it's conversation. It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program, there's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us, take a look, click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.